ace jack off opening, getting 3-bet. I kind of like, yeah, this is good, the coaching seems to work. I really like bluff 4-bet here. So today we're gonna do a gameplay review. We're gonna review a session played by one of my students at NL25z Zoom on Pokerstars. It's the Italian Pokerstars, so the pool is a bit different, but everything else is the same, so should be very familiar for most people watching. And yeah, let's see if we can find some interesting stuff here. Okay, this is gonna be super standard. We're fast folding 7-6 off. I mean, I'm going a bit very detailed here, but I had a quick look at the tags, and it seems that the purple tag is used for like recreationally players, like not entirely fish but close to it. So what that can mean is that this type of player doesn't 3-bet enough from the small blind. This drastically increases the EV of our opens, and we could consider opening wider. Obviously 7-6 off is pretty wide, but the format also being Zoom, people have their fast fold button activated, etc, etc. So wouldn't mind if we at least would have considered an open there, but yeah, I'm being very picky here. So what else we got? Wait, what did we fold here? Okay, yeah, now we have it happening again. Like, green tag is definitely fish, he's not even full stack, so it's confirmed. And yeah, this hand definitely has to open with a recreational in the big blind. It's close to an open in general. Obviously 25 NL rake structure isn't amazing, and it's generally fine to be a little bit tighter, but yeah, with a fish in the big blind we should definitely open this. Unless small blind is like over 3-betting like crazy or something, which I don't know, but usually not the case on 25 NL. Ace 8, we're opening, okay. Blind versus blind, low, very connected texture, terrible for the pre-flop racer, so we start with a check, totally fine. And against this size, this hand doesn't have to defend. Let's see what we do. We fold, yes, that's good. 7-8 suited, we're gonna open. And we get 3-bet. I would like to see a call here. Again, no limit 25, rake is pretty high. We can definitely fold a little bit more than the usual GTO outputs you see from like no limit 500 rake. And we should also 4-bet pretty aggressively, like 4-bet more than we would do on higher stakes, again to avoid the rake. But these type of hands are the perfect ones to call because they are not dominated by his 3-betting range. So when we hit a pair, we're good more often, statistically speaking. And yeah, at the same time our hand is connected, it's suited, so we have high implied odds. This would be some of my favorite hands to call, like these low suited connectors. Because with the middling low pocket pairs we can already mix in some folds, that's fine. Maybe mix in some bluff 4-bets, but these hands would be like one of my first options for calling. Okay, fish limped pot, we face a 1 BB c-bet. like obviously we're never folding, so the question is, do we call, do we check raise? I think check raising is a little bit problematic, because if we check raise and hit a straight with the jack, our opponent is gonna be pretty often completing to a better straight, so we're having like kind of negative implied odds, and in that case building the pot out of position is usually not a good idea. So I like the call. Turn, things don't necessarily get better, because now the board is paired and there's a double flush draw, so our implied odds decrease even more. And so I'm actually fine with the fold here. I mean, the size we face is pretty ridiculous, but again, we could be already dead. Now there's even more rivers where when we improve, our improving is dirty. So if the river is like a 6 of hearts or a 6 of clubs, it's very suboptimal, so I don't mind the fold. Okay. Oh, pocket aces. That's always nice to see. Okay, this flop is definitely not the best. Low connected, like even mono in this case. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to check in our entire range, but I think checking entire range is a pretty good and simple strategy here. Otherwise we could use a very small size and c-bet at a like lowish frequency and play a mixed strategy, but I think checking everything here is very simple and works well. So the check is fine, then we face this kind of weird size. Don't really see much point in check raising, especially against this size. Our opponent should not be very mergy, he should be kinda polarized, and that means he should have either hands that beat us or hands that are pretty trashy, or hands that have equity, but when they complete, like the lower, like if he has a hand like king queen with a spade, when they complete we beat them, so we don't mind to keep if we keep them in. So I really like the call here. Yes, very good. Okay, turn we face a snap check, which is pretty interesting. I think for how the pool plays and how they like act with their timings, after what we've seen, I'm like 95% confident that our opponent never has a flush here, which creates an interesting dynamic. I think we have to check river. It's too thin to bet small for value. Our opponent could definitely still have some bluffs. He could have stepped flop with like pocket deuces or something and now go at it again. And we could even consider bluff shoving river, but I'm going a bit deep here. Just if his range contains 0 flushes, that could be an interesting play. Turning it into a bluff, but he doesn't bet, and he had ace 9. Okay, makes sense somehow. Okay, we opened here. Wait, did we? Okay. Yep, everything standard. We're gonna open ace 8 suited. Get a call. Small bet is fine. Turn is very good for our range. I'm not a big fan of this. So first of all, I think if we wanna keep it simple and use only one size, which I am always recommending to people I'm coaching, then I would stick with overbet here. We're gonna as I said, the turn is very good for our range. We are gonna be pretty polarized. We're gonna bet decent queen X or better, so no reason to use a small size, I think. So overbet works really well here. At the same time, our bluffs, like the bluffing part of our range, can apply a lot of pressure to his Jack X. And now if we think about our specific hand, I think from a GTO point of view, it has too much showdown value to like keep bluffing or something. Like our opponent will float flop with hands like ace deuce, ace 3, even some ace 6, ace 7. So it's kind of okay to check back, keep those hands in, and then if we hit a top pair, we still have some domination going on, which is kind of nice. If we wanna go full exploit and say something like, yeah, my opponent will fold too many Jack X here or something like that, again, I think like using ace 8 is a bit over the top, but if we wanna do that, I think we need to use overbetting size, because like this we're also not really applying pressure on his Jack X part. So yeah, like this way also, if you think about it, we're gonna fold out the ace X hands we're dominating, and we're definitely keeping in a hand like ace 10 if we bet 75 here. So we should at least also aim like to fold out ace 9, ace 10 always. And ace 10 is definitely, like, I think mostly gonna fold against overbet. So yeah, would prefer check back. Second best option would be to overbet 75. I really don't like. Let's see if we missed a light open here. Okay, no, there seem to be two regulars in the big blind, so king 6 is a fold. Ace king could be interesting. We're gonna 3-bet here. Yeah, size is very fine. And our opponent folded, okay. Jack 7 is gonna fold, it's okay. Fold, fold, fold. Jack 8 off against a min raise from a recreational. I think I would call. It's a bit close again. There's always this battle between high rake and other data points. Because if our opponent opens to min size, we have to call quite a bit wider, and then he's a fish, so we should call even a bit wider because we will have a post-flop edge. But then the rake is very high, so how wide do we want to really go? I think for me this hand would still make the cut, but I don't blame him for folding. Jack 9 I would definitely call. Like, if I'm talking about the table on the right side, if I had Jack 9, that would be my threshold where I would say I definitely call. And on the left side, yeah, on the left side it's kind of the opposite. Again, it's a recreational, but he opens bigger and quite a bit bigger. Like, that's a very important like advice for everyone watching. Usually when you guys look at GTO outputs, like GTO Wizard or something, it will always work with normal sizings like 2.5 open or something. So when you face these sizings that are a bit different, you absolutely do have to adjust. And yeah, this makes, like, this, even if it's only half a big blind, this makes quite a massive difference. And Jack 9 would be the bottom, Jack 9 offsuit would be the bottom of our calling range against 2.5, so against this size we can definitely fold. And we found the fold, which is good. Ace Jack off, opening, getting 3-bet. I kind of like, yeah, this is good. The coaching seems to work. I really like bluff 4-bet here. Size is a bit too big, I think. I don't think it's necessary to go this big because we're in position. And yeah, like he using this kind of big size, like stack to pot ratio is already getting to the point where we don't have to go this big to deny him implied odds. So yeah, I would have preferred 26, but that's very specific. The more important thing is that I really like the bluff 4-bet. I don't think I know from data that the pool tends to overfold quite a bit small blind versus especially button and cutoff 4-bet. So, because their range is linear and pretty wide, and it's not easy to defend the correct frequency, and it feels kind of gross being out of position. So bluff 4-betting aggressively there is very good, and I'm happy that we found it. Yep. There's a long tank going on. Okay, the fish in the big blind called. We c-bet small, which is fine. And then on this turn, I would like to see a c-bet. Yeah, fish flop way too wide. Like, so their pre-flop range is usually already too wide. Then they tend to flop too wide. And at some point, even fish have to find the fold button. Like not with their value part, but with their trash part. Like he will flop with so many random overcards, like Jack 10 off, all sorts of stuff. And even though we beat some of these hands, we can't, like most left, if we check back, he will bluff river a bunch, so it's not like we can show down Queen Jack or something like that. So just targeting his big trash range and going for this overfold on a card that looks even pretty scary for him, I think is a really good play. So I like this one a lot. Queen 9 suited 3-bet, and then we have to fold against the 4-bet. It's the bottom of our 3-betting range, so easy fold. Even if the size we face is pretty small, but it's still too weak to call. Okay, I'm gonna fold. 7-6 suited. Let's see what happens. Okay, we open and get a snap fold. Here I would take a note that this guy has the snap fold button activated, because if he does this, we can open any two cards until he realizes it, but it might take him a very long time to realize it. So yeah, and we can open any two cards and we can size down. If he has the snap fold button activated, he won't see our size, or at least he won't pay attention to it. So we can open anything for 2.5 and print. Okay, nothing happening here. Did we open Jack 8 off? Let's see. We have again a recreational in the small blind. It's a bit not so amazing that he has a short stack, which opens the possibility for him to shove. But still, I think with him being a recreational, him probably still not 3-betting a lot. Yeah, I really like going a bit wider here, so this open I think is really good. 10-8 off, can 3-bet, can call. I don't see us using a randomizer or something. So what I would recommend you guys, in doubt, I would just always 3-bet, because it's much more likely that you don't 3-bet enough and the consequences are pretty bad, because your opponents can in theory open wider, and you're kind of missing out on a line that is very high EV, because people overfold to the 3-bet, they play poorly post-flop as the 3-bet pot caller, pre-flop caller, and yeah, and like the other side of the spectrum, if we end up 3-betting too much, nothing really bad's gonna happen. Nobody at these stakes will like punish us by bluff 4-betting a lot or by opening tighter or something like that. Very, very unlikely. So I prefer in doubt to just 3-bet every combo that is like 3-bettable, like bluff 3-bettable in this case. Okay, and we step flop, which is fine. We can fold out better 10x. So there are many turns where we can bluff barrel every 7, every 9 and stuff like this. We fold out better 10x, like Jack 10, Queen 10, King 10, so we are clearing our outs, which is amazing. So this hand makes a very good step. And I think, yeah, our opponent then donks. I mean, the queen is good for his range, but this is not justifiable. BBB, where we, on a flop like this, have a bunch of nuts. So I think this is not a thing. But yeah, we can just fold. It's nothing else to do. Here we call 7-8 off against a min open and a flat. I think it's fine because it's two recreationals, and we have to be careful to not call too much in the big blind when it's going multi-way. But with two recreationals and a low connected hand, I think the call is very fine. And now I would start bluffing turn. Definitely. People are very, very face up multi-way, so if they don't bet, they usually don't have it. It's often really as simple as that. And we get called from both of them, so wait. I want to see the timing. Snap, snap, okay. If it wasn't a snap call, I would always say give up. Fish tend to be very sticky on these paired boards, because if they have a 5 or a 6, in their eyes it's a pretty strong hand, because it's like, if you look at poker hand ranking charts, it's categorized as 2 pair, and so they're like, I have a pretty damn strong hand and I'm not gonna go anywhere with it. At the same time, they called so fast, both of them, that them having a 10 is not so likely. So we could consider bluffing, but then I would go huge and really target the fact that they don't have trips often enough. But yeah, I think probably just giving up is the best. Okay, our opponent okay, so yeah, in this case the decision obviously is very easy. If it checked to us, overbetting would have been an option. Definitely have to call a 10-9 suited. The recreational 3-betting is giving us an amazing price. Then he checks flop. I would not attack here. This is a very common thing recreationals do. Like, unless they are very spewy and have a very, very wide 3-betting range, then things can change. But if they have a somewhat, like usually they tend to under 3-bet a bit. So this is not a line where they're very bluff heavy. And then they love to do this thing to snap check flop. Like if they have like aces or something, they 3-bet pre-flop, and then they're like, oh god, I'm giving away too much information. I have to disguise the strength of my hand a bit more. So they really like to check flops and kinda play it a bit tricky. So if I don't have a very strong reason for betting, and with 10-9 suited, I would say I don't. And we have not much going on for us here. There are some turns where we can barrel, yes, but still, I would prefer here to wait and let him check twice, and then I know that I'm up against the weak part of his range, and then I would go for the free fold equity. Now we check back, and now we face a snap bet. I'm not surprised, and now we just fold. Nothing tragic here. I just would have a preference for delay attacking on the turn. I think that's better. But this is just based on a lot of experience of playing against fish. Queen 10 off is obviously a fold. 10-9 suited we open, get called by the recreational, c-bet small, yes. Everything fine. This turn we're gonna check, I assume. Okay. Fish bets fast and he bets small. In general, in these disconnected lines, we have to bluff catch a lot versus recreationals, and also on these boards, like where it's on the river, it's like 4-2 flush or 4-2 straight. They can be massively overbluffed. The only downside here is that we already had a mono flop, which is not so easy to float very wide. So it's a bit worse. Against his size, I would still look him up. It looks very light, I know, but trust me, these spots are massively overbluffed. I would still look him up. It's not if the flop was like the same texture but not mono yet, and then the run out would have been turn like 3 to flush, river 4 to flush, then I would like literally snap call. Here it's not as amazing, but we have like, you have to keep in mind here against this size, we have to be like right very little, like less than 20%, so 20% of the time. So I would call and take a note. Let's see, we're very unsure here and we fold. Okay. Pocket fives is one of those hands that again we have the same spot, 3-bet button versus cutoff. This hand is kinda indifferent. His size is on the bigger side, so I don't mind a fold with this rake and everything. Again, I would prefer to call like low suited connectors, suited broadways, stuff like this. Okay, we have ace king twice. Okay, squeezing size is on the bigger side, but it's totally fine. Both of them call, okay. Flop is an easy check back. Can't value bet. It's not really a bluff, it's just a check. Keep in their weaker ace-x. And when this happens, we're in a better spot. Now would definitely start betting. At least one of them is a recreational, the Mr. DD Cola. So we have to make sure we get money in against all the weaker ace-x he can have. Yeah, I think this size is fine multi-way on a texture like this. So we can always go for 2 streets. The important thing is that we bet again river, but we don't get there. 10-4 suited, kind of close against min open. I would say fold, but a recreational calls in the small blind, which makes it better again. Very close. I think I don't really mind either play. Fold is fine, I think. Jack deuce suited is a fold in GTO land. If we think our opponents don't 3-bet enough from the big blind, we can start opening these type of hands, go a bit wider. I would say the average reg on this stakes is not reaching like a close to 20% 3-betting frequency blind versus blind, so I would tend to open a bit wider. But then again, some players 3-bet pretty aggressively. I have no idea about this player obviously, so can't really say. Fold is definitely not a bad option. 8-7 off, I would again open with a purple tagged player in the big blind. So I don't really like the fast fold. Gonna keep saying it. These are very close decisions. It's nothing tragic, but as we all know in this game, every small detail can matter. Win rates are very small. It's a game of details. King Jack suited, I would like to see a bluff 4-bet here. Like, this is not so intuitive, but the tighter the positions get, the more we have to use really strong suited hands that maybe intuitively look like a call, but if we don't bluff 4-bet these, we'll never bluff 4-betting. We're not gonna use hands like king queen off, ace jack off here, so we have to use these type of hands instead. And king jack suited is a prime example. Yes, very nice that we found this one. Wait, I missed the ace queen off on the left side. We opened, got 2 recreational cold callers, and we were in a family pot. Okay, we're gonna check flop and go from there. Okay, we got called with the bluff 4-bet. And we fold ace queen off, which is fine. And yeah, 1/4 c-bet, totally fine here. This board is low and connected, but we have to remind ourselves how the ranges look here. It's very tight range spot, and those low cards absolutely doesn't matter. Nobody has hands like pocket sixes, pocket fours, pocket deuces. Nobody even has pocket fives, pocket threes that have equity or some stuff like that. There's no suited connectors or something involved. So this board is completely bricky, and on completely bricky boards, our overpair advantage as the 4-better is very alive, so we can c-bet super high frequency, and yep, that's it. We open ace-6 suited, get 3-bet. This hand can 4-bet, can call, both are fine. The bigger the size our opponent uses, the more we should think about 4-betting, but 9 big blind is actually not such a big size. You can definitely use 10 big blinds here BVB, so calling is perfectly fine. The flop, let's see how it goes. Flop goes check check. This is interesting. How will his check back range look like? I think here actuality is pretty far from GTO. Like, if you want to play a mixed strategy here, you have to be careful to protect your check back range. You have to check back some aces, maybe some kings at some frequency, some draws, some stuff. Make sure you're not like super exploitable. I think in actuality, check back ranges here will be very, very showdown value heavy. Ace, like strong ace high type of hands, maybe king queen, stuff like this. So what I would do here is be a bit over aggressive. I assume this hand in GTO land can check call or bet, probably both are fine, I would assume. The betting has the benefit of exploiting the fact that our opponent probably checks back too weak on the flop. And at the same time, it's pretty nice to fold out better ace-x. And I think the size we should use here is 75. We're kind of polar, but not like super polar. If we would want to go super full exploit, we could actually also overbet this hand, because it's a good bluff now, but a bad bluff on the river. So we would kind of want to maximize fold equity now. But yeah, if you want to keep it simple, use one size, I would use 75 and I would bet this hand. I really don't... now I'm not a big fan of this size. I don't think we accomplish much. I don't think we really want to be mergy. Don't really think here we're gonna bet too much 7x, pocket 8s, pocket 9s. Because our opponent has hands like ace-jack, like the jack changes things quite a bit. So I would prefer a more polarized size. And this hand specifically, like this way we achieve the opposite. We keep the ace-x that dominate us in. And then this hand almost gets too strong to bet. Like if you want to use only small size, then I would rather check call this hand. So yeah. Okay. We get raised. This is interesting. We're in a very weird line now. Could we shove? I think our opponent is very capped and basically has ace-jack, king-jack here, or a bluff. So the question is, can we make ace-jack fold if we shove? Probably not. Depends on the opponent. Me personally, I would be very worried if someone steps small here and then shoves. I might just fold ace-jack, to be honest. Bit hard to say. I think both options are valid. Let's see what we do. Let's not go super detailed on every spot. We have to try to get through with some of the gameplay. Call, okay. Seems fine. Okay. River goes check and we win. Kinda curious now. Hopefully we will have a look. Yes. King, queen off. Okay. Kinda makes sense. Pretty aggressive raise on the turn, but might actually work against the pool. And then he gives up river, which I guess is also kind of fine. Yeah, bottom line, like most important takeaway, I think we should have used a bigger size. That's the most important thing. King 9, limped pot. We face a pot size bet, we just fold, okay. Open ace queen suited, get all the folds. Gonna open ace 9, and we face a very small 3-bet, so this is probably a recreational. He doesn't know which size is correct. We definitely have to call. Like, once people mess up the size and give you these amazing odds, you have to call much wider. We're still in position and can make use of that post flop, so we're calling, which is good. This flop is very good for our range, pretty amazing, but against pot we can't do anything. Ace jack, we get 3-bet. Again, the recreational messes up the size and goes way too big. We have an easy fold. Wait, king 4, did we face? Okay, we didn't face an open. Okay, everything standard here. Okay, get cold called from a recreational. In these spots it's a very good strategy to check a lot. This board then is very dynamic. It's gonna hit his cold calling range pretty well, I think, because recreationals here will also call some offsuit hands like jack 10 and stuff. So starting with a check is totally fine. Ace jack on the left side was a fold, and now we should definitely start bluffing. Size is fine. Very important here, we have to be aware that if we bet this size on the turn, we are keeping the recreational's range very wide. He will have so many hands that can call here. A bunch of random 8x, 9x, a lot of pair plus draws, and like 8-7, 9-7, 10-8, 10-9, jack 9, jack 8. So what does that mean for us if he has all these medium strength hands, or like hands again like ace 9, ace 8 in his range, and we bet small and keep all those hands in his range, then we have to definitely apply pressure on them on the river. So if we got a call here, we should have bluffed most rivers and we would have gotten a lot of folds. Queen jack versus min open and cold call from the button from a fish is definitely a call. Now I would start value betting. People again are very straightforward and passive multi-way. Data shows it very clearly. So there's not much EV in like entering a bluff catching line. We should instead value bet as thin as possible. So multi-way here on the turn, I really like using small sizes, value betting very wide, etc, etc. This hand definitely makes it, especially with a recreational on the button, and using 75 is totally fine. Open 10-9 from the small blind, okay. A6 of hearts. Okay, get called from the small blind. Regulars usually don't have a calling range from the small blind, at least most of them. So maybe we're up against a recreational here. We face a check raise and we have an easy call. With the nut flush draw, and we complete. This could get kinda interesting now. Okay, we face a check. I think if we want to be balanced here, we should only use a small size, so we can keep our value betting range a bit wider. We can also bet pocket 4s, pocket 3s, we can bet some weak flushes, etc, etc. If we want to be exploitative, I mean, here we don't really know, but a player that has a cold calling range in the small blind at these stakes with this rake probably isn't a super expert of the game, so we might get away with being a bit more exploitative. And if we think about our specific hands, if we want to play our hand and not be balanced and not care about that kind of stuff, then we could also bet bigger, because yeah, his range is probably, like, for how people play their check raises on the flop, I assume he's like either some like draws that missed and give up, like 5-6, 7-6, something like this, ace-5, ace-deuce, some stuff like this. And like, people are very polarized with their check raising range, that's what I'm trying to say. So his value range is probably like pocket 3s, pocket 4s. Maybe if he's a recreational, he even calls jack 4 suited. And from these hands we could charge them pretty hard now by betting bigger. And so also 75 with this specific hand would be fine. That's what we do, okay. It's fine as long as we're doing this from an exploitative point of view. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a day here. 40 minutes, been quite a bit. We've seen some interesting stuff. I think my student probably learned a thing or two, and I hope you enjoyed the content. Stick around for more of this in the future, and see you next time. Bye bye.